Welcome to the July 15th, 2026 Select Board meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. In attendance this evening, we have Molly Keegan, myself, Amy Parsons, Jason Kostick, and Brandy Iser. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote and hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. Nobody else has indicated that they are also recording this meeting. Additionally, the virtual hybrid nature of this meeting is for convenience only. The board is meeting in person in a public location. In the event there are technical difficulties, the board will continue this meeting, notwithstanding the lack of continued hybrid access. All right, moving on to 2.1. Employee recognition. So we are going to recognize Mr. Henry Bai for his 50 years of service to the town of Hadley. And another select board member would like to read a proclamation.
In grateful recognition of your outstanding dedication, loyalty, and exceptional service to the town of Hadley for 50 years, your commitment has made a lasting difference in our community, and your contributions are truly appreciated. Thank you for your 50 years of service, presented with sincere appreciation and thanks from the Select Board and the citizens of Hadley.
Just to come on down the line so we can shake your head. There's more.
I'm over here and up down the line.
Do you want to shake your hand?
Andy, we played baseball together, so we're the same age.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we do this again.
We have.
You're not retiring until you hit 60 years. You got 10 more to go.
We just have a couple of short thank you notes that we'd like to say to Henry, and a small gift for him if you would indulge us.
Please.
I'm going to go first. 50 years is an extraordinary milestone in any profession. In emergency communications, it's almost impossible to imagine. When Henry first became a dispatcher in July of 1976, the police department was housed in an old farm building at 42 West Street. There were only 3 full-time police officers, including the chief. The department's base station was a mobile radio, and calls for service were written by hand and then typed into a log. There was no 911. If someone needed help, they had to dial the local 7-digit extension or call the operator and ask to be connected. Over the decades, Henry has witnessed and mastered every evolution in emergency communications. He saw Hadley join the state 911 system and move into the public safety complex on East Street in 1996. He watched computerized records replace paper files. He experienced dispatching transform from a single radio and telephone into today's world of computer-aided dispatch, monitoring multiple radio channels, enhanced 911, criminal justice databases, cell phone location technology, security camera monitoring, and just the flow of information going across 10 different screens that they have to monitor at a time. And just last year, with the rest of the communications department, Henry became certified in EMD and is now responsible for giving life-saving medical instructions, such as bleeding control and CPR. The job Henry started in 1976 barely resembles the job he performs today. Yet through every change, one thing has remained exactly the same, his commitment to this town. On any given day, you could find Henry working the desk. He has long been the go-to person to fill a last-minute shift. If you need Henry and he's not at a Sox or Patriots game, he will be there. Anyone who knows Henry knows dispatching isn't just his job, it's part of who he is. He has spent his full life in Hadley, and there isn't much about this town that he doesn't know. He knows the roads, the neighborhoods, the people, and often the history behind the addresses we respond to. And when he's not actually on shift, you'll likely find him in his garage monitoring the scanner, making sure we're doing our jobs right while he's watching traffic go by. Henry has also earned another reputation over the years. He has never believed in wasting words or sugarcoating them. What you always get from Henry is honesty. You'll never have to wonder where you stand, and you'll never wonder whether he cares about this department. His heart's always been in the right place, even if his feedback occasionally arrives without a filter. Technology will continue to change. Equipment will be replaced. Procedures will evolve. 50 years from now, dispatchers will almost certainly be doing things we can't even imagine today. But the qualities that define a truly exceptional emergency telecommunicator, dedication, reliability, professionalism, and a genuine commitment to this community will never go out of style. Henry, 50 years isn't just a milestone, it's a legacy. And it's one that this department, this town, and everyone who has had the privilege of working with you over the years will never forget. Congratulations on 50 years.
Thank you.
Mine's less sentimental. I'm going to talk about what Henry was like before human resources existed. Just kidding. So most people don't know this, but the first time I met Henry, he saved me from incredible embarrassment and probably injury. We used to work out at there used to be a gym that was located next to Liquors 44, for those of you who are old enough to remember that. I wasn't paying attention and I had loaded only half of my barbell to do bench press, and I lifted it off the rack and began to slide sideways on the bench with an extra 45 pounds on one side only. Henry saw me struggling and rescued me. He gave me a stupid kid chuckle and went back to throwing weight around. With the exception of Randy, most of you probably don't know that Henry has been a stellar athlete his entire life. Literally a few weeks later, Chief Huckowitz hired me as a dispatcher. He told me that he was putting me with the dispatch trainer, and I was to bring a sleeve of English muffins on my first day. I assumed he was joking, and afraid of being accused of trying to bribe my trainer, I decided not to bring the muffins. Mistake number one. As soon as I walked in, I recognized him as the man who had saved me from a bench press attack and a man who wanted his English muffins. My first day did not go well. We went over the basics of the dispatch center, and he just had me listen to the radio for a while and told me that I needed to hear what people sounded like before I'd be able to understand them. He went into the kitchen and made himself an English muffin, of course, and one of the officers hailed the station. 324 to station was said so quickly and sounded so garbled to my new radio ears that I looked back at Henry and he nodded towards the transmit button. Instead of saying, "Go ahead," which I had heard him say 20 times up to that point, I said, "Received." Mistake number two. Henry made me stand in the corner for the next hour. He will deny this forever, but it happened. Future chief of police stand in the corner. Over the next 25 years, I've worked with Henry in a number of different capacities on my end, while he held the same steadfast position he had been performing for years. As they say, there are only two things certain in life: death and taxes. Well, there have been three certainties over the last 50 years in Hadley: death, taxes, and Henry's voice on the radio on Saturday morning. Henry knows everything about this town. He knows where you all live. He will get a rookie officer to your house to help quicker than anyone else. He has been there for me as a veteran dispatcher, as a town resident, and as a trusted confidant. If Henry works another 50 years in this department, it will not be enough. I hope he stays with us for as long as possible. But until the time he chooses to truly retire, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done for me, for us, for this town, and for our department. Congratulations. Even though the fire chief ruined it the other day, I was hiring because he got the same gift. We have something for Henry. This is signed by probably almost everybody who works here. I'm sure we got a few folks that don't read their emails and text. But we'll get it signed by everyone. This is dispatch, police, and fire flag signed by all the employees.
Thank you very much. Oh, as Meg said, it's gonna go in my garage. You know, this is really neat.
Where do you want to see the pictures?
Right here. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Oh, say you. Okay, it's all right. Very happy. We'll find. Actually, get signed.
It's gonna fall down. I don't put it somewhere.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, I guess I could maybe say a few words. What do you want me to say? Am I gonna be a boss? I can stand here and go by the microphone. Go by the microphone.
You can grab it and hold it if you want. So you don't have to sit down or.
See how it goes.
Testing 1, 2, 3. So I've been thinking about this for the last 2 weeks in my garage about what do you say after 50 years? You know, it's history that I've been a part of with the town, and everybody in town remembers a lot of things that I was a part of. So when you think about 50 years, you think about, or I did, the first 2 or 3 years, the first 6 months. And then in between is a blur. And then the current staff that we have, the current people that I work with. So it goes from the beginning and then to the end. So in the beginning, the fire chief came down my house. I was on the fire department at the time. I was 18 years old. I just got out of high school. He said, "You want to work at that Saturday night, 4 to 12? This is a Thursday night." And I said, "Sure." And he says, "Go to the station tomorrow night. Tony Gansas will show you the ropes." Get me an hour of training. Friday evening or Saturday evening, I was on a desk by myself, working 4 to 12 shift, dispatching police and fire. So 2 officers that made an impact at the time. They were full-time, they were young, a little older than me. Want to mention their names was Mike Majewski. He became a lieutenant when he retired. Dennis Huckowitz was a lieutenant, became chief. Had the public safety complex named after him. But those 2 guys took me under their wing, confided in me, let me in on a lot of stuff, probably molded me. Fast forward to the present, maybe a few years ago, when Chief Mason said when he came to the dispatch, I was there to train with him, and I did my best. And right then and there, I knew he had somebody that was special. And he became a police officer. He went on to be a sergeant on midnights. And then when he became chief, he really professionalized the department, got the best equipment. He said that he doesn't want to hire just good police officers. He wants to hire good people. And that's why I'm still there, because I work with all good people. I don't want to forget Chief Spanknable. He and I hashed over a lot of stuff over the years before Meg came forward, because she pretty much is, you know, the liaison between the department heads, that she is the supervisor. But before that, you know, there was a lot of stuff that I kicked around with Chief Spanknable. And I told him the other day when I saw him, actually it was yesterday, I said, there was an article in the Gazette. Everything in there was right on the money. It honored you. It showed you what you did to this department. He brought full-time department and that ambulance service, which we kicked around for 20 years with committees, but he instituted that ambulance in 2018 with Action Ambulance. So in closing, I just want to say that Chief Mason said to me at the end of 2018, he says, I got to do something with dispatch. And he says, well, he's going to hire a supervisor. Meg Cahill. She was a shot in the arm for me. She professionalized the dispatch. She got the best for us. Quality assurance was now a thing where she's in the radio room listening to phone calls, making sure we're getting everything right. But her biggest feat so far has been EMD, which she mentioned. And we've been doing it for, I believe she said 15 months. And it's now when people in Hadley call 911, you're going to get a Hadley dispatcher to give you medical instructions before they get there and after we send them. So you're not talking to somebody in Wilmington. You're talking to a Hadley dispatcher. And like she says, if you know location, it speeds even the response faster. So that's what we're all about. We're trying to make everything for the public because that's why we're here. So that's what I want to say. As far as the 50 years go, who's keeping track, And Meg said, she says, yeah, you got to make it to 50. You got to make it to 50, And last year, Meg, okay, I didn't think about it, but Friday I worked a couple of hours, and that was, Meg said to me as I was logging out, she said, you know what today is? I said, no, Meg, I don't. She says, today is exactly 50 years, and I'm glad you worked a couple of hours. I said, Meg, that was the deal. I worked my 50 years. Here's the keys. She said to me, you're in tomorrow, right? I said, yeah, see you tomorrow, Meg.
A tough act to follow.
Well, thank you so much and congratulations on 50 years.
Thank you. I thank the board one more time for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Well deserved.
Well deserved.
Absolutely.
And thanks for everybody coming to show your support too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, these are my fellow workers, dispatchers, police officers, it didn't take over even residents in town, and it's certainly heartwarming.
Thank you.
Henry, make sure you put that where I can see it when I drive down the road and look at you in your chair in there. All right.
That's so nice. Yes. Cameras are on, but no, you're not on them. It's okay. All right, moving on to 3.1, our consent agenda for the evening. We have minutes from April 8th, 15th, 21st, and 22nd of 2026. We have a cultural council appointment for Alessandra Boicio Rotuno.
Yes.
And a cultural council resignation from Elizabeth Rotuno. A declaration of surplus property for the DPW equipment. And that's it.
The list for the DPW is attached and they'll dispose of the property through municipal bid, which is how we typically can go.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right. Motion by Jason, seconded by Molly. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Moving on to 4.4, public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes so that others may have an opportunity to speak.
Nobody's indicating.
All right. Moving on to 5.1, select board goals. This will load for me.
I took a minute to do
Yeah, mine's not loading. Okay.
not this.
This just copy of the service delivery plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. I think, we had mentioned this, we'd like to have the town manager or town administrator goals and the select board goals, somewhat be parallel and integral. And so
Okay.
we haven't, there wasn't anything specific. I did upload the service delivery plan from the other year into the portal. Just, it covers, the roles of the select board and administrator. Personally for myself, I've said I'd have kind of 4 main areas I'd like to work on in terms of communication, finances, HR, personnel, and products and initiatives. And, where the select board, it could be that I can share some things I was curious to hear from members, but, you would like to see as priorities as well for this year. Say it could be a different bucket, a different theme, but those are kind of my bigger areas and then things within that. So, for instance, within personnel, I think there needs to be some updated policies in town on some new procedures, meeting with staff, just hearing about things. And it's not necessarily, big changes, but, I think we could have, for instance, I mentioned like when we apply for grants, a procedure in terms of how to get the contracts in place, set up accounts with the accountant, invoices and everything. So we're not left scrambling, say at year end, thinking, oh, wow, this was actually all from a grant fund, but we're paying it out of a different account for most of the fiscal year. And so, so things like that. I don't know if there's any, big policies the select board has in mind. We talked about, Jason's mentioned municipal properties, and there's a facilities plan, but do we have anything more in depth related to that? So people have asked about that, like what municipal property is there and what is the town going to do? Is there a disposition process if there is? But I don't have any, I have ideas, but I was curious to hear yours as well.
So-
Go ahead, Molly.
And I'm just thinking, if we have, some of the goals that are in my mind are, some of them are probably a multi-year.
Yeah.
So for example, first thing that comes to my mind is, putting Hadley on a sustainable financial path, right? Pretty sure we're not going to resolve that this year, but it would be nice to know that some of your specific goals are, feeding into that, right? So I think about, maybe this is a year to be having more dialogue with the planning board, that kind of thing, so that the select board and the planning board are coming together. So that's one thing, but maybe another piece of that is, we've talked before about the necessity of, really taking a look at how the personnel fit into the service delivery plan. We all know that again, forever grateful for the override, right? That did pass. But it's not a one-time solution, right? Like we have a gap that
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So to speak.
And so trying to figure out how do we best utilize the personnel, town hall in particular, but town-wide, the department heads, are there a way to merge positions, all of those types of things. And then, I would hope that's something that, once you really get a handle on things, Nate, that you'd be coming to us with a proposal in that regard, especially as we have turnover happening.
Mhm.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Bigger, yeah.
Yeah. No, for instance, right under my theme of, finances would be right. Financial, sustainability and resilience. And so what does that mean? Is it, under new growth, is it growth strategies with the planning board? Are there other policies in town that can help? So whether it's, trying to then line up for, grant applications, I mentioned in my email, I think, a local match is really important, and it's hard to be like, okay, let's have all these capital requests coming. But I think it's something, what we've heard from the state on a few big public works applications is, a local match goes a long way in helping with a grant application. It would make it really competitive. And so, aligning our projects with grant cycles and fiscal years. So we're planning ahead. And I think that's really important. I've asked PVPC to help kind of understand that, And, I've met with them a few times and I want, I've asked them to outline all the grants that could be possible for Hadley. And there's a lot. And so, then prioritizing what are the really beneficial ones to go after and how do we manage that? And so, I think I mentioned previously, there's a grant to get the open space and rec plan done for a community. And I think it will open up probably next month. And so we can apply it through PVPC. It can cover an update to the town's open space and rec plan. And then we'll be eligible to apply for grants next summer. It's a prerequisite to apply for, renovations to parks and, conservation areas, for other grants, for public infrastructure. And so, that kind of thing would be really important to, plan for. I think for the financial piece is really important. So I think there's efficiencies within the staff and how we operate. And then, also bigger picture, I'm going to the pilot listening session tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, working on state level things, what are priorities there? So is it, are there a few that we really want to work on? It's great to apply for earmarks, but are there a few, state level commissions or initiatives that we should really, be listening and following and be active on? And so to me, I think the state-owned land pilot one is really important because how they have so much preserved land. I think it's a detriment to Western Mass communities in general. The funding from it is.
Yeah.
And so, there's certain things like that. So yeah, no, what you said, Molly, is great. And, I'd want to dovetail my goals with that. And so that I know we're in alignment.
I would reiterate what Molly said. My biggest concerns are figuring out ways to increase the town's revenue. And I agree that we have to work with the planning board in order to make this happen if it's going to. I had a conversation with someone this afternoon who's involved in the building world. And, the big thing is the east end of Route 9. It's already ripe for redevelopment in a lot of places. And I drove down there the other day and I looked to the south and I said, you know what? I don't see any mountains. So the view shed would not be destroyed if we allow for higher story buildings, etc. And, however we can increase our revenues, and again, to Molly's point, is trying to figure out how to cut costs wherever we can.
I don't want to rely on overrides year after year after year to bail us out.
They will not, we won't get them.
Nope.
And then another thing I think, Nate, too, is I'll call it, again, overarching category of risk management, right? And I'm not talking about specifically town insurances, but kind of the classic SWOT analysis. What are the big things that are out there? Like, we know we have a huge issue with the culvert system. We know that the levee, these are threats to the town, and trying to continuously move the ball down the playing field to get us closer to having a solution. Because again, that's not going to happen in one fiscal year, but we can't just ignore it,
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, I just spoke with Senator Markey's office this week about the levy. And so, there had been a request to get money in, and it's still moving forward. And so it's, the plan is to touch base every few months. So it's a really big, it's a big one.
But, again, kind of leaning on you to make sure that we know. Yeah, we don't forget what some of these things are. Yeah.
And to Jason's point of the excess property that the town owns, I think it would be great to have a list of every single piece of property that the town owns, so that we can look at them on an individual basis and decide if it makes sense to keep it or to get rid of it. And, obviously we need good reasons for one thing or the other, not just because we're tired of looking at them on the books. Hopefully we could generate some revenue from that, and maybe there's some situations where it would be ongoing rather than just a once and done sale kind of thing.
I think, and I brought this up before too, but kind of piggybacking off of that is we need to figure out what to do with Russell School. It's just sitting there on this piece of property, prime land right on Route 9, and just kind of figure out what we want to do with that building. If it doesn't sound like we're going to have the money to preserve it. So if that's the case, then, you know, where do we go from there? Maybe we can bring some revenue in that way.
And if they're properties that are, maybe we're using them, but they're underutilized,
Yeah.
you know, maximizing the utilization.
Yeah, no, this is great. Like I said, I put the service delivery plan just, you know, pretty recently this evening in the attachments, only because there's, you know, a section that talks about, you know, the select board, you know, in terms of as a policy development board, you know, the town administrator, I work with you in the community. So what, you know, it doesn't say anything too specific, but it's just for reference and for the public. You know, we talked about public communication. So, you know, I still want to improve on that. I think, you know, I've heard it's, you know, it's between myself and you, but also the community between departments. And, you know, it's interesting how much when there's a little communication breakdown, it can, you know, it snowballs and it can be bigger problems. And it's as simple as, you know, for instance, when plan sets come in for a building project, it's not a smooth process for other departments to review them. And it's like, you know, just that could be improved. And it's an efficiency with staff, but also that means the public can go faster through a permitting process and get to the end goal. And so it's not, you know, getting delayed there. And, you know, I think everyone does the best they can. I mean, I'm amazed and appreciative of all the volunteers in Hadley. So, you know, I see it now, especially with Kayla not here, that the boards and committees do, you know, they do a lot. And so, but some of it is how, you know, right, can we nurture some things and help things along? And so are there ways to improve communication even there between boards and committees? I like the idea of meeting more with the planning board. I think someone else has suggested that, you know, what is it, every quarter the select board and planning board meet to talk about, you know, some of these ideas, bigger picture strategies, just so everyone understands what's happening. And yeah. But, you know, if there's anything else, you can always email me. I just, like I said, I want to start the conversation, and I already have, you know, a lot of notes and ideas. I'll, you know, keep working on it and start sharing that out with with you.
I think also updating like the org structure.
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of your guys's professional development days. I think that's something that would be a you know, doing on a consistent basis. Definitely would help with camaraderie and morale, as well as, you know, people understanding other departments that maybe they're not a part of. And then the potential for the cross training was great too, between departments. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Words. Oh, Citizens Academy.
Yes, I have the flyers made up. It'll start, I'm hoping to start it in the mid-September this year to get it going a little earlier. And we have a wait list, or no, wait, I'm sorry, we don't have a wait list. I had a wait list from last year. I have 7 people already on the list for this class. So I'll start an advertising push like big time this next week, and hopefully we'll have another full class. And department heads have been really generous with giving their time to do the presentations. And so,
As somebody who took that class, and I'm sure Randy can attest to that too, it's very, very, very good class to attend. Very knowledgeable. You get to learn and learn so much about what goes on in town that I didn't know before. So it's just a very good, very informative program. So I highly recommend it to anybody that hasn't taken it.
I would highly recommend that other board members participate, because it really makes the other department heads who are participating feel like we care and we're involved. And it, as Jason said, it is awesome.
It is.
You really learn a lot of stuff.
And I know there's some things that are in practice. You were talking about policies and like the employee handbook. There's the committee handbook too. Like trying to get those out, and it's just helpful as a committee chair to be able to make sure everybody that you know, the big thing being the open meeting law and all of that. So as we have committee members turn over.
Yeah.
Like you said, we have so many volunteers.
Right.
So.
I would like to maybe start thinking about doing either after the annual town election or with the July 1st appointments, doing a training. Specifically, I do have a recording from town council that I can send out, but I think it would be beneficial to maybe have a little quick hour-long or 2-hour-long training right with those appointments. So.
All right. Anything else? We good?
No, this is great. Like I said, I have, everything I've written down is probably a few years to do. And so, I just want to prioritize year one, knowing it's going to lead to, can build on itself for future years, but just to, make sure I'm headed in the right direction. So, yeah, I mean, if I was like, oh, I really want to push this idea and I'm not hearing it, then, I can table it for later. So this is helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. 5.2. So if you want to tell us a little bit about the donation that the town received.
Absolutely.
Any stipulations?
Nope. It was, so the town received, it was sort of thrown around by a few people as y'all were doing your override meetings. There were a few people that said, well, can we make a donation, or how would we do that if I'd be willing to pay more taxes? And turns out someone was willing to pay more taxes. They would like to remain anonymous. And so they had an overpayment, and they said, please donate it to the town to be used for the benefit of the town. Wow. So it's just under $3,000. And I would like to put a request into y'all, and I don't expect you to decide this evening but I would like to put in a request that y'all consider using this to allow the town to look for an insurance broker to help us move or explore moving health insurance for our employees. There's just something, as I've taken over, as I became ATA and took over HR, this is probably one of the biggest expenses for the town. And also the customer satisfaction of our employees with the service that we're receiving is not great. And I want to make sure that we're providing the best possible health insurance at the most cost-effective price for our employees. And so we can work with the health broker and have them help us find the right insurance, working with our IAC. And it's going to be right around $3,000 to do that. And I'd like to implement that as soon as we could.
We still have the insurance advisory committee
We do,
that's
and
still active.
they have to be a part of this. I would just like a professional to guide this, to make sure that we're looking at all of the angles. And so this gift was an unexpected windfall towards the town, but it could, we could really parlay that $3,000 into pretty incredible cost savings to the town by using it effectively in this way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the idea of finding a way, in the spirit that sounds like it was given, to leverage it for something even more impactful. And certainly that, the wrong decision on the insurance that you don't realize is wrong until you're looking back at it. It's money out the door. So
that's sort of what I was thinking. And our IAC is really great. I mean, they dug right in and started researching, but they're also employees that have full-time jobs. And so I want to be mindful of that. I want them to be able to review proposals and things like that, not go out and look for the actual, insurance trust or insurance companies.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a more effective way to go about this.
I mean, I'm comfortable voting on it tonight.
Yeah.
If everyone else is okay with that.
I'm fine. I was going to say that I think it's an incredible use of that money. It couldn't have come at a better time. It just so happens it's just the right amount. And we know we are going to be struggling with insurance for ever. And if we can get a jump on it, I'm all for it. So I would make a motion that we take this donation money and utilize it, as Jennifer has suggested, to hire an insurance broker. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
I'll second that for discussion. The only other thing to think about is if we're just hearing about this for the first time tonight, I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
do we want to give anyone else an opportunity to make a suggestion too? That's. I'm right now, the leading contenders clearly.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, Molly, and I'm not willing to go down that road, quite frankly. I think that I don't know of another situation where that money could potentially benefit us immensely. I know there's no guarantee that we're going to do any better, but the insurance issue comes up every time we have a financial discussion, and none of us, in my opinion, have the skill set to go through insurance policies and figure out what's what. So if we get somebody who does it for a living, I just think it would be a wise investment, and the sooner the better.
You said it's somewhat time sensitive.
It is.
Is it?
Because you have open enrollment coming up in a couple months.
We have to inform our current insurance company. If we decide to leave, we have to inform them by December. So I will say that I didn't want to jump the gun, and I'm sorry if that's how it felt. It was just in my mind, this has been percolating for about a week since I found out about the gift, that this would be a really great way to go. Because I was going to ask for it at town meeting instead.
And if it's going to benefit the employees in the long run, I think that's all for that, definitely. And I just want to say thank you to whoever the anonymous donor was.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was a very generous gift.
Definitely.
So the motion was by Randy and the second was by Molly. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. Going to move on to 6.1, Town Administrator's Report.
Sure. I'll walk through my report. It also includes some department updates, which I think are important. Just beginning with communications, I'm still meet with, town individuals and constituents and residents, and my schedule's becoming a little bit more of my own, which is nice. So I'm starting to schedule more meetings. So I've told people I'd like to meet with them, and I know they're probably waiting, but I still will do that. I think it's really important too. Along those lines, there's the next kind of morning show with the town administrator's office, the end of the month on the 31st. We have a special guest, Jason is joining us. We'll be here in this room at 9:30 for conversation.
How'd the last one go?
The last one was great. So there was, 10 or 12 individuals who stopped by. We spoke for about an hour and a half. It was, is anything from like, oh, what do we think about this to, okay, what are my goals for the first year in Hadley? And what do I think is the biggest issue? And sometimes it was just casual conversation about like, whatever was happening in the news. So it was great. It was really nice. So yeah, we don't have a set agenda for that. We could in the future. Right now, it's just, they can ask questions of myself and Jennifer and Jason. And, if we want to have a certain theme or topic, we could, but that's not the point yet.
Mhm.
And then, we're looking at using Facebook again and posting weekly updates. So I've been trying to send, select board, the finance committee has asked for some as well. And so just again, the communication piece is really important to try to get the information out there. I continue to meet with departments as well, individually, department heads to understand, their roles and tasks and kind of like we were talking about, kind of overall structure of town. I think to me, it's really important to know the structure of each department, even if we can't fund it now, what we think is needed in terms of, say, FTEs and what would really help it to function, and have that kind of that layout and organization. And then, can we combine things between departments? What's the best way to approach it? So I'm getting to understand that a bit more. In terms of finance, finances, there was the year-end transfers at the last meeting last week. But the finance team is still monitoring closing out FY26. So, grant reimbursements are all due. Everything's due by today. There's, time for money to come in still. So although, it looks like the books are closed, there's still a scramble to, make sure everything ties out. And everyone's busy doing that. At the same time, FY27 is starting. So the accountant is busy getting the account set up. All the tax bills were mailed out, by July 1st. I just want to make a note that the amount for the override wasn't on those bills. So the way we do quarterly billing, we take the previous year and we do an estimation, and the tax rate isn't set anyways until the fall. So the tax bills that you see for the first two installments don't take into account the override for the citizens. And so, just to put that out there, there's been questions like, oh, what happens? So in February, you'll see the first increase because of the override, and it'll be really put into the two last quarters. And then, if there's any questions, you can, let me know, the collector, anyone, we can try to figure out if there's any questions on how that works. I probably won't have the answer, but I can find someone who does. And the audit is still ongoing. So that's a really big one. We have a relatively new audit company and they are asking for a lot. And so it's great that I see it as helpful. So, they're asking for details. So that means they don't have big problems, right? To me, it's like the more detail they ask for, it means they're not finding anything. And so that helps with the town's bond rating, and, borrowing and everything is really important to have a good audit. And so, Linda and the team has been doing great there. I think it should be wrapped up really soon. For HR and personnel, again, I want to congratulate Mike Spanknable. 27 years, 13 years as chief. It's a long time. He did a lot. He committed himself to the community. So I'm going to put that out there. We have advertised for the building commissioner position. There's been a few applications coming in. Dave is still here. He's willing to stay on for a bit, but we really do need someone full-time in the building department. We're hopeful. We're updating the DPW Supervisors Union contract, which will be coming to select board in the near future. We want to, again, outline certain positions and things there. Jennifer's been working on that. UKG is the new benefits, contracted benefits coordinator, and we're hoping that they'll be up and running in August. It's been a really big effort between different staff and departments now that we don't have human resources. And so, if this, hopefully, fingers crossed, this all works really well, and it'll streamline a lot, even enrollment for employees next year. It'll make everything a lot smoother. Seeing it now, I knew it, but seeing it takes a lot of time. And Jennifer can attest to that. I see.
So sick of it.
And I mentioned the insurance broker. I think that, for that amount of money, I think hopefully it can leverage a lot. And even if we, like Randy, I agree, it may not yield anything this year, but I think the information that they'll find is really valuable to the town in terms of options or things to consider in the future, even just different like plan types. What are the different offerings? I think that's really important, especially when we've been hearing from employees who say that the cost of insurance is making them consider looking for work elsewhere, and it's people you don't want to lose. And so it's disheartening, and it's a landscape for municipal. A lot of actually employees, by the way, where my wife works, not municipal, their insurance is very expensive as well. It's just the cost of health insurance these days. But it's nice to know that we're doing something to try to figure that out. For products and initiatives, licensing, the ABCC, the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, is sending out their annual reconciliation soon. So then we know the liquor licenses in town. So that's something that's happening soon. There's a limited number. It's just good to know and see what we can do with that. Representative Gomez told me last week that, he secured $145,000 for signage and accessibility improvements along Route 9. So that's great. We've been working on that project in Complete Streets. So I feel like all this dovetails really nicely with that. In terms of the other studies, I'm leaving them on there. I think it's good to see. Hasn't been a lot of change. With the solar on the landfill, I have asked the developer to be directly in touch with our attorney to try to finalize those legal documents. And so I know that's ongoing. I'm not sure where it is exactly. Valley Bike, we had the explanation from Northampton and it's still there. I think it's something, I don't mind bringing it back up and hearing from it. I understand we want to minimize costs of the town. I think the question is, can we have businesses or private support for that, ongoing for operations? I think it's easy to have the installation. I think the grant can cover that. It's really, how do we maintain the annual cost of that bike share program? And I'm not, I don't have a great answer for it. It really is borne by each municipality. And so there hasn't been a great way to say, oh, yeah, you can get private donations. No other community has done that yet. And so they just, have a line item of a few $1,000s, whatever it might be for a contract. And I understand in the time where we are, is there a way to do that and maybe not have the town pay for it? So I'm still thinking about that. I'd like to leave it on there. For department updates, I think this is, I've asked that, the second meeting of the month, we go over some of the departments. I think it's great to hear what they're doing. The accounting department is, like I said, they're really buried in FY 26 and 27. They're getting FY 27 put into the Vadar. It's our municipal, system or software for accounting. There's no free cash estimate yet. That'll come later. In terms of the fire department, Bob, he's jumped right in as acting chief. He's cleared out actually a lot of permits. So he's here now. He said, I don't have much to say, and he gave me like 7 bullet points. So he's hit the ground running. He's looking at improvements to, processes, permits and everything. I think it's really good in coordination with the building department. So, I think, not only is there fire responding to emergencies, right? Fire does fire prevention, there's permitting, there's a lot of things that happen within the fire department. And so, getting a handle on pieces of those is really important. So that's what Bob's been doing. For the library, they going down the list, they list, the director does this with the trustees every month in terms of number of days open a month, how it compares to the year before, a number of patrons and what's been taken out. They do a lot of programming. I feel like the library, just like this building, is a community center. And so when I visited there the other day, the number of people coming in and out in the summer is amazing. Even look like college students doing research on a bank of desks. And so, I think it's a really great resource. Some of the highlights are, the roof is an issue. And so it is something that will have to be addressed soon. So there's leakage with the roof. There's money involved to fix it. And so, I think those conversations, need to happen. And so, it's put out there. I've asked that Dave look at it too, as our building commissioner. He was a builder, he is an inspector. I think, just getting ideas of what could happen. I think there's a nice display of birds. So if you go in there, there's an art display. And so the students at Hopkins, and it's really great to see an installation publicly. It'll catch your eyes. It's really nice. And, just going down the list, they do have some, other funding, capital campaign and other things. And so, it's good to know that they have that. There's discussions about could some be available for the roof? No decisions yet, right? But they want to help bring things to the table. I will say their front doors, there's some issues. And it's interesting that when I was in Amherst, we had done some front doors maybe 10 or 12 years ago, automatic front doors, and we had to replace all of them at about the 10-year mark, and I don't know why. And so it seems like they're having some of the same issues with the mechanics of the doors. And I don't know if it's like a hardware thing or if it's a software piece, but I think other towns have had the same problem where some of this new idea, like where you press a button, doors open, doesn't work. For some reason it doesn't work as easily. And then the door is really too heavy to pull because it's really meant to be an automatic door. And then it's really heavy to pull. For Parks and Recreation, youth soccer registration is underway. It's a really high demand sport. They're high, really popular. So it's something that's consuming a lot of time. There's a martial arts introductory clinic that Amy's hosting for girls, which is great. There's a new summer movie series. Bank ESB is sponsoring this. So outside there'll be 3, movies on the lawn with food vendors. And we're hoping that is a success and it could happen, every year. It's just another great way to get the community out there. For police, they've done their fiscal year closeout. There was a surplus in their salary line because of a vacancy. And so, some of that money, as you saw last week, was moved around. They are advertising. So it's not as if they need less money there, but it was a fair amount and it helped complete a lot of things. They've had a really busy year in terms of number of calls. They say maybe the busiest they'll have. So I think that's probably indicative of what will happen next year, right? It just seems like more people will be calling, both police and fire. And they are in their hiring process. So it's, they're hopeful. It takes a while to get someone on board and trained so that, you could have someone that comes in with the qualifications or they don't, and then you send them out to training. And so, as it might, Police Chief Mike said, could take a year to have someone actually on board if they don't have the training and then they have to come. So even though they're hired, it could take a full year before they're, ready. For Public Works, they closed out their 26. They completed all the line painting in town. They've closed out 2 grants, and so that's great. The state's actually confirmed, I think, both of those. And so we're waiting on reimbursement. So we're already looking to apply next year for a few. Like I said, they had 6 grants this past year they were awarded, and so it's things that people don't realize. For water, they're doing all the fire hydrant maintenance and water testing. They also have a cybersecurity grant that is part of the water asset management plan. So $60,000 paid for a consultant to assess water lines, the needs for the next 10 years. And that'll probably be coming forward soon. Same with sewer. For the senior center, you can see there's a lot of numbers here. They do a lot of volunteers. So there's a lot of volunteer hours that go into this building, into the programming. It's pretty amazing what they do. And it's, you don't want to say it's, yeah, I just think, when you say 500 hours of service, it's like, I don't know how what you do to replace that. It's like, it's almost unbelievable that there's that many volunteers. And they did, 36 van routes, 19 residents, a lot of meals. And I think it's a great space here as well. For the schools, it's, Dr. McKenzie, superintendent, provides an update. It's online, and just some of these highlights as well. So, the school does really well getting grants and different programs, augmenting the budget with additional funding. And so that's what kind of the July 6th is showing. They work with, they certified all the end of the year data with DESE, Department of Early and Secondary Education. They have the summer program going. There was the last day of school, June 22nd. And they get a lot of accolades. So I just wanted to put that out there that, what they're doing, they work really hard. It's a great school system. And so, part of my, we talk about the goals, when I met with Annie, it's like, well, what do you want to see? And it's like, they do great with funding, but also can we, in terms of state level funding formulas, there's an initiative to try to look at that. And, love to have more in-district families and school-age children coming in. There's a lot of school choice, which is great. It means we have a strong school system, because also it'd be nice to have a growing number of in-district school-age children as well. If you look at population trends, it's like we want to maintain a certain number of students in every class that are, is from Hadley. I guess and then I have my weekly emails. Again, congratulations to the fire chief. I did miss a week. I was on vacation. I really wanted to send one, but I tried not to work too much. Just mentioned public infrastructure again. There's a lot of need there. There's capital needs in town. And so, I've encouraged some departments to get ready for a fall town meeting with capital requests. They won't all be approved, but I think it's important to get those out there and say, we're applying for the bridge program on 47 again. The state told us, 3 things that would make the application really competitive is a local match, get the engineering plans to a certain phase in the design, which we'll be at, and I think letters of support from our legislators, anyone who'll do it. And so, my idea would be let's go to a fall town meeting with something there, and then, it'll leverage $1 or $2 million in state funding and federal funding. It might not come all at once, but that too, that the local match won't be spent until we get the rest of the money. So we could vote it can sit, and we can tell, these grant programs, look, we've allocated whatever it is, $200,000 to $1 million grant program, to another $1 million grant program. And I think that'll be really important. And it's one that the town's applied to for 2 years in a row and hasn't received. And so we're really trying to, to me, that's a priority. I met with Linda and reviewed the capital planning process. And so that'll be starting soon. It's a kind of dovetails with the idea for fall town meeting, but there's a lot happening. We asked all the departments what they need for the next year. And then there's a process to, prioritize and move things forward. And so, yeah, we went through all of that, from kind of the strategy that took place in the, 8 years ago in terms of how to do capital planning and you carry debt, to kind of the, annual cycle and details. And so that was really helpful to hear that. Hadley Media, I want to mention with the override, their budget looks good this year. It's something that, they're spending down the reserves. And so for the out years, does it just become part of the regular budget? And so, the cable revenues are declining. And I think it's just something to consider, for FY 28 and moving forward, how do we fund Hadley Media in their budget? Again, it's a community resource. They do a lot. And so just, they need the money. And so we have to figure out where it comes from. The planning board and smart growth committee held a meeting when I was on vacation about the 40R smart growth overlay. I didn't attend it. To me, that's again a strategy. I think it's a really good one, looking at Route 9 for redevelopment, and it's something I'd like to move forward. I don't know if what happened at the meeting. I had that.
So you might want to. I think you'd be interested in viewing the meeting.
Yeah,
and
I've heard
some
from
of the discussion topics.
Yeah, I heard from a few people about it, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely watch it.
And then I mentioned the pilot session. So there's it was formed almost a year ago. To have this statewide commission to re-examine the funding formula for state-owned land. And there's listening sessions happening in Western Mass. So I'll be attending one tomorrow night. And I think, they're asking for anyone, you can submit comments online. They really want the voices to be heard in terms of what that means. And so after tomorrow night, I'll probably be sending more emails out, seeing if we can get, other people to provide comments. There was a letter in the Berkshire Eagle or an article a while ago and said, we get, $10 an acre, or now in Eastern Mass, they get 1,000 or many thousands an acre. How is that equitable? And so, even if it was like I said, if the pot doesn't change, but the allocation ratios change, it is a huge benefit to a lot of communities in Western Mass. That kind of concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. I know that we just got these last week, but does anyone have a liaison report?
The only thing I would say is I've just started scheduling. I've got a meeting scheduled with our new acting fire chief next week. Also, Board of Health spoke with the police chief. So I'll be meeting with him, and then I have to look at some of the cultural council and stuff to get to. But I figure I just try to meet with everybody at the beginning of the fiscal year and then take it from there.
I met with Violet Suska, our COA director, Jane Evans Smith, and a few of her staff and volunteers last week as part of my new liaison assignments. And I just want to say thank you to all the COA staff. They gave me a very warm welcoming. I was able to sit down and have a quick meeting with them, and they kind of just gave me the lowdown about what the senior center does, the services that they provide. And I got a tour of the whole building. Usually I only see this room, so it was nice to be able to see the rest of the senior center. So I just want to say thank you to them. And then I also stopped by town hall, and I tried to visit as many departments as I could. I missed a few, so I'll definitely be back soon to try to visit the ones I missed. But they also gave me a very warm welcome, and I really appreciate all of them taking their time out to visit with me.
All right. There isn't a section. I was gonna say there wasn't a section for future
sorry, I
agenda
dropped that.
items. That's
I'll
okay.
add it. I think I dropped it because the goals, I thought they would kind of be the same, but yeah.
Okay.
Did you have something you wanted to?
I did just want to, for consistency and credibility, just revisit the policy with the flag flying policy
Oh, okay.
for potential expansion.
You want to do that on the 5th?
It should be a pretty quick thing.
I can do that. That is.
Does anyone have anything else or announcements?
Well, I just have one. On behalf of the select board, would like to express condolences to the family of John Kokoski, a longtime Hadley resident, larger than life personality. Don't think I know anybody who didn't know John. So very sad to hear about his passing, and again, well wishes to the family and all of his loved ones.
I just wanted to make an announcement. This is actually directed towards Bob. I actually met with somebody that worked with you on the Amherst Fire Department. He's a EH&S Fire and Safety Officer at UMass. And he was just saying that I think that the town's in really good hands with you on board here. So I just wanted to share that with you and you're getting some positive feedback. He is a Hadley resident too, so.
A lot of pressure, Bob.
All right, can I get a motion? Do you want me to read it? You good?
Oh, the executive session?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I would like to make a motion to go into an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy session in preparation for potential negotiations with non-union personnel, the acting fire chief, as well as the finance director / treasurer, also non-union personnel. If an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on this bargaining position of the town, if the chair so declares, and not intended to reconvene in open session.
Second.
All right, motion by Molly, seconded by Jason. As chair of the Hadley Select Board, I state that the board has moved and seconded to enter into executive session. And I state that discussing the matter in open session will have a detrimental impact on the bargaining position of the town of Hadley. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Roll call vote, Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Costick,
Yes.
and Isaac.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, everyone.